Water types are amongst the most popular Pokemon in the history of the franchise. Even after they became obsolete from an HM standpoint in Generation 7, with you now not needing them to be able to surf around, water types still remain a staple in nearly every player's team to this day. So this video is going to be looking at the 5 best water type Pokemon of all time. But we won't be including legendaries or starters, as otherwise this list would just be a bit boring. First up on our list is Kingdra. Introduced in Generation 2 as an extra stage to the Horsey evolution line, Kingdra quickly lined itself up with some of the best Pokemon in the game. The inclusion of one in the 8th Gym Leader Claire's team solidified it as potentially the most well-rounded Pokemon in all of Johto. Its 540 base stat total is almost perfectly divided up to be as balanced as possible, with its attack, defense, special attack and special defense all being 95. On top of that, it has an average 75 HP and an okay 85 speed. This makes Kingdra one of the most versatile Pokemon to ever exist, and we haven't even mentioned its insane dual typing of Water and Dragon yet. Before Generation 6, Kingdra actually only had one weakness, which was its second typing Dragon. It was only when the Fairy typing came out that it became a little bit more manageable to take down, as that provided another weakness. But even still, only having 2 weaknesses overall is a huge strength of Kingdra's. The only annoying thing about this is finding a Dragon scale to evolve it, as in earlier generations this was not that straightforward. Nowadays it's a little bit more simple, but still a pain. However, it's definitely worth the grind for what you're getting in return. Speaking of Pokemon that are difficult to evolve, the next entrant on our list may well be one of the most tedious Pokemon to obtain in history. Milotic is an incredible addition to any team, with it being such a special tank. As a sole water type with 125 special defense and 100 special attack, there aren't many Pokemon that can go toe to toe with this unit. Its base stat total is the same as Kingdra's with 540 and also has a good spread, with its previously mentioned very high specials matched with good HP and decent physical defense. However, finding a Feebas to evolve into one of these things is a challenge in itself, then evolving it is even more of a drag. So be prepared to work for such a useful team member. In early generations of Pokemon, Feebas would only appear on a few different individual tiles in a certain area, so you would basically have to fish on each tile one by one until you found one. However, even if you did find a tile, there was still only a 50% chance of actually finding a Feebas. This was insanely grindy to do, but wasn't even the end. Once you obtained a Feebas, you then had to get its beauty stat up to a certain level in the contest feature in order for it to evolve, which was also a grind in itself. In later generations, it has become easier to get a Milotic, as Feebas is now more accessible, and you also have the option of trading it whilst holding a Prism Scale to evolve it, making it infinitely quicker. The first Generation 9 Pokemon to make our list might be an obvious one for most of you, and that's Palafin. This guy is honestly one of the most interesting Pokemon I've ever seen, and it's all to do with its unique gimmick. Palafin itself has a pretty mediocre 457 base stat total, which is okay, but far from being worthy of a spot on our list. What makes it a must-have on the list is its ability 0 to Hero, which gives it an insane stat boost when it exits a battle and then re-enters it again. Doing this will put Palafin in its hero form, which actually has a ridiculous base stat total of 650, making it better than any pseudo-legendary to ever exist. Dragonite, Salamence, Garchomp, you name them, this thing is considerably stronger. When in hero form, Palafin's HP and speed stay at 100, while every other stat gets massively juiced, including an outrageous 160 base physical attack. You can then pair this with the move Flip Turn that Palafin learns upon evolving, which will deal a decent 60 base damage whilst also switching it out of battle. This allows you to then bring it back in whenever you want, and it will be in hero form. There's a good reason Palafin has made a name for itself already in the Pokemon community. Now for the first and only Generation 1 Pokemon we've included, which is the infamous Gyarados. Even though this guy might start out as a pretty useless Magikarp, if you can muster up the willpower to evolve it at level 20, you'll receive one of the most destructive Pokemon in the history of the games. With its great base stat total of 540, Gyarados hits like an absolute truck. The only slight issue is that its physical attack is its strong point, not its special attack, and most of the best water type moves in the game are special, but it doesn't really matter all that much. I'd say one of the nicest things about Gyarados is how accessible it is, with Magikarp being found on practically any route in the game with water. In the later generations, you even get an opportunity to skip out the awkward Magikarp phase, as Gyarados is quite widely available to catch already evolved. If you need a Pokemon to sweep through the game with and provide excellent type coverage, and for some reason you haven't used one already, then you have to pick up a Gyarados. And finally, our last pick and the second inclusion from Scarlet and Violet, we have Dondozo. This thing really reminds me of Wailord, but it's way more balanced. It has incredible HP with a base stat of 150, but also has 100 plus for both physical attack and physical defense, making it a complete tank when in battle. Unlike Wailord as well, its other stats aren't horrendous, other than its speed, which I suppose is expected, but its specials are both 65, so at least somewhat respectable. It's also the 4th Pokemon on this list to have a base stat total of 540, so it falls into that category of not quite pseudo-legendary, but still an absolute monster. Dondozo is located in a fairly late game area, which is the only slight downside, but if you can wait till the Castleroya Lake to catch a water type, it's gonna be well worth it. You can use it to either tank hits or deal damage, which provides a lot of worth to your team, and also it doesn't evolve from anything, so you don't need to worry about meeting some ridiculous requirements to use it. If you fancy using something different, then I definitely recommend using a Dondozo on your team. You'll more than likely grow to love it. If you enjoyed this video giving you the 5 best water type Pokemon of all time, then make sure to leave a comment telling us which type we should cover next.